So, if you want to go ahead and just share a little bit about sort of your sort of initial what got you to seek some services with Bhakti Brain Health Clinic, and then we can kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah, about a year ago, I started looking for resources because my brain just felt so broken. And because of that, I felt so broken and life had just gotten extremely difficult for the normal stressors and some big stressors too, but I just felt so overwhelmed all the time, and my brain just was not functioning what I knew to be like my normal capacity. But then also, even at a reduced capacity, I just couldn't function. I had been through a lot of health issues and stresses in life and traumatic things, and I always thought that I handled them well. I had gotten to a point where I just was so dysfunctional that it made me question whether or not I really should or wanted to exist anymore. And I started looking for ways to heal the brain, and having experienced pretty incredible healing from cancer and other illnesses and a broken neck and a head injury, I knew that healing was probably going to be the route that would ultimately help me get through my brain not working. So I started researching healing brain function, and came across Bhakti. And that moment, after reading through the preliminary information on the website, sent an email, sort of as just not maybe my last hope, but what felt like a last hope, effort to try to get back to normal or to heal.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate your candor around where you were at that point in time. And sort of I can hear and I remember talking with you at the time and hearing a sense of almost like desperation of
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to reclaim you. And yeah, and that sense of just wanting to live, right? That sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. So so will you I'd love to hear a little bit about like the your process through the neurotherapy services, your journey through neurotherapy and what you noted in terms of just like, interested in like your ideas about symptom reduction, but also like how though that reduction in symptoms or enhancement of abilities, right? That because I think for you, what I recall from some of what you shared, that was part of what started to happen for you is that reclaiming, how that has had impact on your life.
Yeah, definitely an easy question. When I first started therapy, I didn't really know exactly what was going to happen. I didn't know how I would feel. So at that point in my life, I was very averse to anything else that was going to hurt or that would be scary or intimidating. And I was experiencing a lot of dissociating and shutdown and numbness. And I had existed in a numb, powered down state because I had just gotten used to life had just become so difficult that I really powered down, to survive, and then existing in a sort of dissociative state, it can almost get addictive. And I started to learn about myself and start to believe that I had resiliency that I had sort of long forgotten. And that was one of the first things that I noticed, is that I started to feel hopeful again, that I would be able to withstand the pressures and stresses. And I really started to feel more present in life. And it's not like there was a significant life change or situation change necessarily, but I started to feel like I could handle it. And part of that, I think, was just the experience with going in for the neuro. stimulation and neurofeedback, I didn't exactly know what was happening, but I just fully trusted the process. And it was sort of slow at first because the my brain was just so tired all the time that even some of the sessions were hard to sit there, not because they were painful, but because my stamina. But then I started to feel more and more stamina. And then through that, really started to get accustomed to when my brain was starting to feel stressed and would want to shut down or felt so overwhelmed that I started to believe that there was no way I was going to be able to get through whatever stress was coming at me. And so that process of going from wanting to avoid anything that was going to stress me out or give me anxiety, or, I mean, I just was so anxious for so long, and that anxiety really made me depressed. But one of the first things that I started to experience was just a sense of trust and calm and really being present in the moment. That focused concentration of the sessions sort of trained me to be able to stay present and to stay focused and to work through whatever my brain was trying to compute. So it was pretty drastic, and just continued more and more and more through the sessions. And it was, I don't know, it was really neat to go from things that were intimidating and overwhelming, realizing that they didn't need to be. And then that
Yeah,
translated into life.
yeah, yeah. It's a really lovely way to talk about it. I'm curious about the what you said about kind of g- feeling like that sense of presence coming, right? And being able to stay present. Did that feel like a new thing for you, or just oh, it's back. Here it is again.
I think, well, it's both. It had been such a long time. Um, I had existed not present for such a long stretch, like the entirety of my adult life and a lot of my childhood. There's been times where I felt completely myself. I mean, that sounds like I've been faking my life, and that's not it, but felt calm and secure to be just completely present in the moment and not worrying about everything that's going on and what's going to be coming next. Like just really truly present and enjoying the moment and riding the ups and downs. So part of it was new, and then part of it was sort of this, I don't know, old friend, just comfort that was familiar but also new.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It almost sounds like it was something that you had previously, right? This old friend of yours, but that it sort of like the old friend 2.0 version, right? There was more
Yeah,
of a clarity or a sense of clarity to the presence. Yeah, that's
yeah.
great. That's good to hear. One of the things I remember talking with you about, and that I know had been a struggle for you, was that sense of your brain being tired and fatigued.
Mhm.
And one of the things that you had talked about is some awareness about sort of how you had been motivated by fear, and that seemed to start to change. And as it did, can you talk a little bit about the impact that had on that sense of fatigue? And
Yeah, that was one of the biggest realizations during my treatment was how much of my life had been genuinely fueled by anxiety or worry and sort of wanting to avoid pain and chaos and stress. So the moment I would wake up, I would get this flood of anxiety about everything that could go wrong, or feeling like I had messed up, or that was in my basket to fix for the day or for the future. And that jump that comes from wanting to make sure that I do everything I can to prevent the ball from dropping, or negative impact either on myself, but a lot of it was for those around me that I cared about. that stress fueled this anxious energy, and I lived off of that. And I think I thought that was normal for a long time, for most of my life, and I didn't realize that I was pulling from a tank that felt like it was an endless supply of anxious energy, but then that tank got depleted. And then there was this stress of, okay, there's
Yeah.
nothing in the tank to pull from. How am I going to function if I don't have that? And I started to learn that stress and that chaotic, anxious energy was not actually energy. It was like short, um, I- unhealthy. It wasn't a good energy. And when I stopped repeating those same patterns and relying on that anxiety, I became very, very tired. And then I was in an unfamiliar zone. I had to relearn life and relearn myself. And that was very scary. And previously, when I had tried to do that and live a healthier um, pattern life, not fueled by anxiety and stress and chaos, I felt lost and alone. I didn't know what to do, and that became very scary. And that's when I really started to question like whether or not I could survive or was designed for this life. But going through these therapies, learning how to reroute my brain and my thoughts and be okay with calm, be okay with um, less energy, but routing it into healthier, more functional ways. Um, I really just got reacquainted with myself and my intuition instead of pushing my intuition down, really started listening to it. And that came from comfort, just allowing my brain to be in the unfamiliar until the unfamiliar became known. That has been life-changing. It was a rough road, but having the reassurance of the the techs or the therapist, I don't know exactly what the titles,
Yep. They're
the staff
technicians.
there, the
Hmm.
technicians, and
Yep.
also you during the journey to say this is normal. Here's scientifically kind of what's happening to your brain. Here's what we're doing, and here's how your brain is reacting. Really gave me the reassurance that this is okay. I didn't need to stress about it. I didn't need to be anxious about it. I just needed to continue to stay consistent. And um, yeah, it's been transformational and not just affecting me, but those in my life. And also, some of these are familial, like family inherited patterns, and being able to positively affect those that I care about, not just because of the decisions and the presence that I have now that's not fueled by stress, and also influence a better way of life for them as well, has just been I, t- amazing.
That's neat to hear. Thank you for sharing that. That's a piece that I haven't heard from you, and so it's really nice to hear that that the work that you uh, committed to do for yourself in regards to this neurotherapy process is now benefiting others as well, and that's fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
Big time. And it's
Yeah.
alleviated my stress too,
Mm,
because some of us uh, were, I don't know, sort of triggering one another unknowingly,
sure.
which led to a lot of stress and anxiety. It was like the snake eating its tail. You just don't know
Mm,
where the start and the end of it was, but to have an interruption that finally allowed us to make progress and me to make progress, I mean, has just been a huge gift.
that's wonderful. It's good to hear. Um, what else, um, as you think about this journey that you've been on and the role that neurofeedback and neurostimulation have played for you, anything else that I haven't asked about, but that you're aware has kind of been pretty significant for you?
Yeah, there's lots of things. Probably two of the most significant are my recall and my sharpness. Like my mental acuity has returned a lot. Like I don't forget things as much as I used to because I'm not in hyperdrive all the time. If, for example, if I needed to remember to bring my water bottle, I would have to say water bottle, water bottle, water bottle over and over to kind of get it to stick. And then I would have to stick it in the middle of the floor so it was very obvious so I wouldn't forget it because my brain was just so overactive with everything. And it's not that everything inside of my head was bad or dark, it was just so much all the time. And I would get just inside of my head was like a tsunami at any given time of good things too. But just so much going on. Now I have the ability to choose a lot better what I'm thinking about, what I'm ruminating on, what's sort of an active thought and what's much more passive. I don't have the stress of forgetting things because I have the trust that I'm going to remember. And that's been amazing just with work and life and feeling like I'm reliable too. I had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame for forgetting things or being late or just feeling like I wasn't um, adept at life because I consistently forgot things. I would make up for them. And I think I carried guilt that I didn't need to. They were small transgressions, if you will, but they seemed so significant. Um, and then the second part, so the mental acuity and the memory part of it, um, there was something else talking about mental acuity. I can't remember. um, oh, I know that the sense of peace and security. I have experienced some really significant traumas in life, and I think every person has things that have happened to them, or there's been consequences of decisions that they've made. For me, I experienced a lot of violation of my physical security and my mental security. And I, at all times, had this hyper awareness and lack of security, which led to a lot of anxiety. But everything, I felt like I couldn't trust anybody or anything, even if I deeply loved. I was always worried when something bad was going to happen. And even my sleep, I really struggled with sleep for years. I've always been a night owl and an early bird. So sleep, even when I was little, my mom would joke about just there was never an off time with me because I
Ah,
was up early and I was up late and just so curious. And I love that part about me, but undisciplined me would function on 3 hours of sleep at night. And just much of my life was spent scared and not just scared, just unsettled and unsecure. And part of that was healing from those traumas that happened to me and reassuring myself that I am safe, that I am secure, and being willing to trust again. This brain healing work that I did allowed me to feel comfortable with the assessments that I would be doing of whether or not this situation here and now is safe and secure. And in my relationships, I've just really settled down and calmed down and have gotten good rest. I don't wake up 4 or 5 times during the night. I'm like literal nightmares. I would wake up and my heart would be beating so fast and I would be disoriented, almost like I was in like a pixelated state
mm,
trying to figure out reality. So scared. And I was finally able to let go of those traumatic things as much as I can. I don't think we ever let go fully, but to the point where it affects me less and less and less. And instead of every night being 2 or 3 hours of sleep, instead of every night waking up in a panic, now it's just a handful of nights each month. And that just being able to rest, to be really able to just rest and work on the relationships in my life, to accept that I can trust them, to accept that they are safe, or accept that I will be okay if they're not, has also been just so transformational for me.
mm. That's wonderful to hear. That's really, really powerful to have that sense of being able to trust yourself, to be okay no matter what, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Anything else in on your mind around the therapy?
Another thing that I learned or really became secured during my brain therapy treatments were my job and our job is not to be responsible for other people's peace and happiness. I took that on, whether it was self-assigned or I got familiar with that. Like my very security and my peace was based on the stability and peace and happiness of others around me. And I've learned to be able to know what's my responsibility and what is on other people's, and be okay with a sense of sort of unsettledness around me if I'm settled. And that has also been extremely transformational. So just not being responsible for other people's emotions, their reactions. If I can have confidence that the decisions that I am making are good, I feel good about them and I feel at peace with them, then just letting it be. And that has really gone a long way to providing me peace and security, and also making things better in the relationships around me too. Boundaries, being secure with setting them and believing in the boundaries that I'm setting, that they're good.
That's fantastic. Good.
I think for those that have ADHD, whether or not they've been diagnosed with it or whether or not they think that they have it, there's a a lot that comes in that backpack of ADHD that is really hard to deal with. There's guilt, there's shame, there's frustration, there's dysfunction. I feel like I've been able to sort of forgive myself in some ways and better understand how to take care of myself um, through the complications that come with ADHD, and be able to share with other people too. Medication isn't your only option. Like there's so many things that you can do that make life so much easier. Like you might not be able to like undo a diagnosis or completely change your brain, but you can learn how to work with it and not fight against it. And I've been able to share things that I've learned about my brain and how like ADHD felt like such a curse. And in some ways it is like the paralysis that comes with that and the dysfunction. I've become at peace with it and I've been able to work with those dysfunctions instead of against them. And I don't know, symptoms isn't the right word, but the complications that come with it have,
Yeah. Yep.
I've been able to bear better with them. Like I feel so much more focused and centered, and I still struggle with staying focused for um, a duration of time, and I still have the dysfunctions that come with it, but they're a lot less, and I'm more aware of it. And so I've shared those things, the like allowing yourself to recognize, okay, I'm really getting distracted or I'm really powered down right now. What can I do to like overcome this paralysis of overwhelm of everything, and be able to move forward? I just feel less trapped in the day to
Yeah.
day. And that's something that whether or not someone has severe trauma or illness or injury or my exact blueprint of what led me there, those things that are sort of the universal experience of ADHD, like there is hope and there is help. Like people don't just have to suffer and you don't just have to rely on stimulant medication. There's so much that you can do to become friends with your brain, and your brain becomes your friend too.
Yeah, that's so well said. I feel like you are a good spokesperson for, just being able to find a way to embrace you, who you are. One of the things that I hear in what you're saying and rings true for me as I recall, like doing your QEEG analysis and seeing the pattern of anxiousness. And you had obviously talked about that openly as well. But the thing that I hear from you is that as that anxiety quieted down, right? And not like it goes away. We should, we don't, that's not a goal to have anxiety go away, but to be able to manage it rather than it managing you. And it sounds like as it quieted for you as you were doing neurofeedback, that has allowed you to develop a different relationship with some of those manifestations of the ADHD. And it sounds like some of those have just lessened in general. But in addition to that, and maybe for you, the more powerful piece is that you have been able to create this other relationship with those. So it doesn't come with all of the fear and the shame and all of that. It's just more of an ability to kind of move into a place of accepting in the moment and then figuring out how to mediate it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would equate it to, um, it feels like it's not, if someone doesn't have their hand, it's very obvious, right, that they are having to figure out life without a hand. With ADHD, a lot of this is the invisible. So there's this just internal struggle at all times. And if someone didn't have their hand, they would be able to very physically see, I just need to do things a little differently, or this is the way that I am. So this is how I have to function. I got familiar with what my deficits were, or how I am and how I function, and better understand ADHD in general and my ADHD, and have found ways, just as if I didn't have my hand. My reality is I need to do things this way. And instead of feeling like I am less than or broken or incompetent and incapable, just become at peace. Like, this is how things affect me and how they manifest in my life. So I've been able to reroute. I became at peace with my missing hand, if you will, and how I need to work around it. Now, does it make it easier if there's situations where it'd be great to have two hands? No, but it allows me to be able to be functional through that rather than to hit that wall and be paralyzed and feel like it's permanent. I think another thing too is things feel so much less permanent. I felt like I was stuck in this judgment sentence that was forever, and it was forever hard and overwhelming, and I was forever incompetent and broken and trapped. And I feel like I can breathe again. Ironic because I'm sick right now, but I really feel so much more peace in my life and so much more hope and productive, and just like I have progress now where I just felt so chained, so stuck, and so sentenced forever. It doesn't feel like that. I feel like I feel creative again too. Like I missed that spark of excitement and joy, and that was a hallmark of me prior to getting into that state of dysfunction and paralysis. Um, I just feel a spark again, and I wake up in the morning, and rather than being what felt like I got injected like directly into my veins was ice. It felt like a full ice takeover of stress and anxiety. I wake up now and I'm like, okay, well, today's gonna maybe be challenging, but let's do it. And it just, I don't know, I feel again sort of like a new person, but also that familiarity
Yeah.
of the good parts of me that kind of got stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's good to hear. Um, okay. So, you've done a fantastic job of just really talking very eloquently about all of the transition that's been occurring for you through this process. Um, and so I feel like we have a good testimonial here of sort of your journey and what has gone well for you in that process as you brought in this piece of neurotherapy, retraining your brain. And so before I turn off the recording, I want to give you a chance if there's any other little thing that's floating around for you to share it. I don't want to turn the recording off. before you feel like you're done. But
Yeah, I don't know who's going to see this, but if you're watching this and you're unsure or you just don't have that hope or your your brain is just tired and overwhelmed, just take the leap and trust it. And listen to your intuition. Like just fully surrender and fall in and accept that it's going to be messy and scary and new and overwhelming, but you'll not only get through it, like to get to where I am today, I mean, just it works and it makes sense. And I hope that my story, even if it only affects one person, it's so powerful that it was worth taking the leap. And I will do everything I can to make it possible for other people to be able to experience this too. It's really kind of sparked a mission in me to help people find healing in their brains and in their lives. And um, I'm really glad that I did it.